It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here in this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the final day of December 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones. I've been telling you in the last year the obvious, that 2012 was a hoax to make you basically have a subconscious image in your mind that the world was going to end anyways. And so why get involved as your liberties and freedoms and finances were being robbed by the global crime syndicate? And now here we are going headlong into 2013. And just as I, in late November, published the InfoWars magazine saying Obama is coming for your guns, the new issue says 2013, the year America dies as a republic. This will be the year that they gut the entire Bill of Rights and Constitution 100%. This will be the year they slit our collective throats from ear to ear, across the carotids, across the jugulars. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. And I've been telling you that before the mass shooting, because I saw all their victim disarmament groups powering up, launching their psychological warfare preparation programs. The prep is always the green light. And they're going for the checkered flag here, ladies and gentlemen. They want to go all the way. They want to disarm the American people. They want to win the race. They've disarmed most of the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this morning I was poking around with Senate testimony of Dianne Feinstein about all the guns she packs. And we're going to be playing those clips coming up, and came across one from 60 Minutes that I remember at the time because she's made similar statements, but that I had never seen or don't remember seeing, that we're going to play when we come back from break, where she says, I'm targeting Mr. and Mrs. America. That's who. I'm going to get your guns. She says, I'm going to get your guns. And see, collectively, we all moved forward from 95 when the whole anti-gun lobby said we want to totally ban guns. And then we sit here and they go, we don't want your guns. That's ridiculous, like Joe Biden says when he wrote the assault weapons ban, or one version of it. And that's what's so insulting about these people, is that they talk to us and play this game when they bald-faced lie to us like we're idiots. Well, we're not idiots. But they're targeting the part of the population that is unconscious, who might as well be idiots. So when we come back, start your engines. The final broadcast of 2012 here on the InfoWars Network will transpire, will elapse, will unfold, will explode into 2013 in defense of the Republic, in defense of humanity, in defense of liberty. Prepare yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is the last transmission of my radio broadcast in 2012. It is the 31st day of January. It is the 31st day of December 2012. Tomorrow will be the 1st of January 2013. And I normally don't stumble over my words. I'm looking at Infowars.com right now. We can punch that up on screen there for viewers. For radio listeners, you'll want to go to Infowars.com. Video. Dianne Feinstein says, prepare to turn in your guns. Democrat Senator, Mr. and Miss America, turn them all in, is the quote from 60 Minutes. And she goes on to say her dream has always been to take all our guns. And that is exactly what her bill says. You know, when we first wrote about her legislation last week, people didn't believe it, and they actually read it. It says, well, we make you come in and fingerprint to own guns, but if we feel like it, we'll just refuse and make you turn them in and do a gun buyback. That is a announcement of gun confiscation. And it says it right there in the bill. And then people like Alan Combs, who came out and attacked me in the Huffington Post on Friday, they come out and say, hey, what are you freaking out about, Alex? Yeah, you'll have to turn your guns in. What's the big deal? So see, oh, we don't want your guns. We would never want you to turn them in. They've tried 5 or 6 times in the last 30 years to physically ban everything but bolt action. They're all on record. Obama, Eric Holder, Feinstein, Sarah Brady, all of them saying we believe that there should be a total abolition of owning guns and there is no Second Amendment. Biden has said that. And then he goes out on the campaign trail and says, nobody's taking your Beretta. Nobody's taking your semi-auto. We have the video of that. When he wrote one of the versions of the assault weapons ban that physically made you turn them in, all semi-autos. He says, nobody's getting my Beretta. Really? Under the Feinstein legislation, and legislation you supported in 1993 and again in 95, it openly, physically makes you turn those in. And again, we know they're liars. How do we know they're liars? Their lips are moving. But that's because we pay attention. We're dealing with a large portion of the public, I wouldn't say a majority, but a large portion, 35, 40%, who would put their child in a microwave oven and put it on cook for 30 minutes if the Democratic Party ordered them to do it. These people would throw their children off cliffs if they were told to. They will do whatever they're told. They will believe anything. When CBS comes out and says, the NRA is lying, no one owns guns in Israel. There are no guns at the schools in Israel. There are no citizens with guns. That's a lie. The NRA are liars. Atlantic Wire, CBS News, you name it. Now, in about 10 seconds, you can go look up the Israeli gun laws on their Knesset website. You can see Haaretz, Jerusalem Post, you name it, with the women all at the beaches there that carry their M16s with them, in their bikinis with M16s. You can see hundreds of photos of Israeli men and women in the schools guarding the children. You can see it everywhere. I mean, it's a fact. But they told you on the... See, they can't have Wayne LaPierre come out and say, well, hey, their answer with school shootings was to arm people. And then it knocked out all the school shootings. They're like, you're a liar. They don't have guns in Israel. That's right. NRA got caught in a lie. Again, this is what they think of you. Joe Biden, nobody wants your guns. That's a lie. We'll never try to take any of your guns. That's a preposterous lie. That clip's coming up. We're going to play that. Meanwhile, we're going to play a clip of him in the debate saying he wrote the assault weapons ban. And you're like, well, yeah, he says one thing one day, another, because they have disdain for you. These are tyrants. And we're going to go over in more detail today the insider trading of Dianne Feinstein. And that's what it is. Remember a couple of years ago, oh, Dianne Feinstein's one of the top people. She had $1 million when she went to Congress, and now the wealth's, you know, an estimated between 70-something million and 150-something million. It all varies because it's so vague. I mean, how do you make $200-something thousand a year? What's the salary of a senator? 175, excuse me. I guess it's the president gets paid 200-something. On $175,000, and they just got raises of $4,000. So on $175,000 and you're worth $1 million, how do your investments turn out to be conservatively 70-something million since 1993 when she entered the Senate? Well, it's like Hillary, cattle futures. Oh, you went and invested $1,000, Hillary, and you got $1 million on your cattle futures. Oh, yeah, sure. These people are gangsters. And when it all came out, they were insider trading, you know, giving billions of dollars to companies that they owned or that they had just bought, you know, stock in. and then their money doubles, triples, quadruples like Dianne Feinstein? What is their answer to that? Oh, well, it's legal when Congress does it. So the public said, well, then you're not allowed to do that. You've got to change the law. There was already laws. But they went, okay, we'll pass a congressional law banning insider trading with a bunch of loopholes in it. You see, of the ethics committee in the House or Senate, run by insider traders themselves, and that's come out. I've got stacks of news on that. The worst offenders in insider trading head up the committees. They then say, oh, well, we got a waiver. We cover that in the Obama deception. Paulson, they're going, how did you get $200 million for yourself? And Paulson says, I got a waiver. And where did you get the waiver, Treasury Secretary? Oh, I got it from the ethics office at the Treasury Department. And Mr. Paulson, who is the head of the Treasury Department? He couldn't talk because no one would ever put him on the spot. And I don't particularly, like Bernie Sanders, the socialist senator, but at least he asked those questions. The guy that really asked the serious questions was the Congressman Stern from Florida. He brought all that up as well. I mean, these clips are powerful. They get, they're publicly insider trading. Everybody gets upset about it. And so they go, you know what, we'll outlaw it, even though it was already illegal. But they play that game of, oh, there wasn't a law. And the Israelis aren't armed. And the moon's made of cheese. And the Easter Bunny's real. So the public says, okay, there ought to be a law. And they go, you're right. We'll pass a law. Then they pass a law legalizing the insider trading in the name of passing a law to outlaw insider trading that was already illegal. And see, that's wrong, ladies and gentlemen, on so many fronts, obviously, but that's what you get when you have a bunch of Harvard lawyers running things. And I got friends that are lawyers. They're defense lawyers, and they're lawyers that protect people from the other predatory lawyers. So I'm not saying all lawyers are inherently bad. As we become a society run by corrupt lawyers, you have to then get lawyers to battle them, but then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And they don't teach 98% of the lawyers at these law schools that, turn them out like puppy mills, how the law really works, how the world really works. You've actually got to find real lawyers, and real lawyers, well, they're listeners to the Alex Jones Show. I've talked to some of the most high-powered lawyers in the country that I've brushed up against and that I know. And they go, you're absolutely right about how everything works. That's exactly. See, real men live in the real world and are successful because they know how the real world works. But all the little children, all the little yuppies that buy into the hoax of mainstream media, they all think they're real smart. And they wear their ignorance like a shield. So again, my friends, it is the 31st day of December 2012. And we are going to go over all these clips today, but the good news is their gun grab is out in the open. Can you guys punch up drudgereport.com for me, please? If you go to drudgereport.com and you go down to the right-hand side, you see linked in red right there. Democratic Senator, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. That's a quote. Click on that. And the reason I say go to Drudge is our site, most of our IT people are out on vacation. We've got one person back there trying to keep the site up. And if our site goes down, other people have already copied the video and the article I wrote. And so it will be on other sites. But if InfoWars goes down, we may flip it over to Prison Planet and redirect that Drudge link. The problem is we can't even get in the back door of the site right now to even do that flip. But the point is, the good news is, right now, hundreds of thousands of people every 10 minutes are pouring into that link. That's the power of the Drudge Report. It's why I marvel at it, because it's the most powerful place in the alternative, real, non-state-run media, to be able to get through the electronic Berlin Wall, and all the big news editors and all the big talk show host producers, they all, and this has been seen on the news many times where you're in somebody's office and there's the Drudge Report in the background, go there, because they're unimaginative boobs in mainstream media. And So they go there because Drudge knows the zeitgeist of what is really interesting and what is really important. And so, again, the video is there right now. It's also up at Infowars.com, red linked. Get the video. Get it out to everybody you know. When we come back, we're going to play the video for radio listeners. Video, Dianne Feinstein says, prepare to turn in your guns. She says, we will get them. And her target is Mr. and Mrs. America, because she is a witch. We'll be right back. Yeah, Dianne Feinstein, what if I say I'm not your slave? What if I call your bluff? Oh, yeah, you can probably destroy me. We know you're a mobster. But it won't matter. You can't destroy the idea once humanity activates and realizes what they're facing. If you just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, coming up later in the radio/TV show, one of our listeners last week put together a video that we played on the nightly news. I want to play it here. It's now getting national attention. And again, I'm proud that when I went to their site, they're a listener. It's just good to know how active our listeners are. Demand a plan. Demand celebrities go bleep themselves. And the story is also at drudgereport.com. It shows Tony Montana. They're firing his machine gun at people. And it points out that all of the people in the Bloomberg ad, the Hollywood movie stars like Jamie Foxx, who are calling for us to have our guns taken, they are all in movies killing people indiscriminately with guns, undoubtedly contributing to much of the wanton violence in this country, and they are disgusting hypocrites. So we're going to be playing that video here on the broadcast. Now, again, if you go to Infowars.com, you can watch the video, and the site's doing good now, so everybody can get on there. Video, Dianne Feinstein says, prepare to turn in your guns. Democrat Senator, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. And this is her from 60 Minutes in 1995. And as I've said, they're all on record saying their goal, and the UN goal, is the total abolition of civilian firearms ownership, as UNIDIR has stated July 7th, 2001. The abolition of civilian ownership of firearms to ensure the legitimate power monopoly of the state. Well, the state having power monopoly is Nazi Germany, is Soviet Russia, is Maoist China. It's authoritarianism, signed, sealed, delivered, certified, bona fide, confirmed, gift-wrapped. And the issue here is, in the article I wrote this morning at Infowars.com, I give you the background and link to her bill, which even the NRA isn't getting. Gun Owners of America is. And again, I'm not giving ourselves credit on this. It scares me that Kurt Nimmo was the first to write about this 2 Fridays ago. It scares me that when her bill was official on Christmas, she put it out Christmas. First, she said the Friday before Christmas, 4 days before Christmas, she said, yeah, we are going to look at forced gun buybacks of all semi-autos. And then Governor Cuomo conferred with the senator and agreed. And it was buried in a New York Times article and a local radio station interview. So we did an article. It got picked up, again, by Drudge. Got to give the credit here, folks. It got out. But people said, oh, this can't be true, even though they were saying it. Then the bill 4 days later comes out. On Christmas, we put an article out on Christmas because, see, we want our liberties, not a bunch of Chinese-made slave goods. That's not what's important to us. And people then said, oh, this can't be, Kurt Nimmo's and Alex Jones's interpretation of this. It can't be true. Because, see, people are always at a loss for words when faced with real tyranny. People always get sucker punched by it because you're not an evil control freak. You're not a wicked witch, insider trading, goblin-like creature like Dianne Feinstein, who has a will to dominate, has her own bodyguards and her own firearms. We're going to play her admitting that here in a moment. So you just can't believe they're going to do that, and so they're able to get away with it. And still, no one is getting it in alternative media except for us and a few others, that her bill says, her bill's now official. She introduces it officially on Thursday. The bill states that, well, we could just make you come in and re-register and thumbprint, or we're going to have the power in there to just make everybody turn them in with a gun buyback, forced buyback, with the money to pay for it. I mean, that isn't just a gun registration of all gun owners at the ATF's discretion. It says they can also confiscate guns nationwide in a bill. And she's the head of the committee on rules. And Obama has got her as the leader, and he will take her advice in the task force. This is all a plan. Let's go out to break with her clip from 60 Minutes. Here it is.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
That's it. Well, she's got the votes now. We'll be right back. Here is Dianne Feinstein saying the target of whose gun she's targeting is the American people. Mr. and Mrs. America, get ready to turn them in. And why does she want that? Why does every other authoritarian government want to take the guns? While the very same authoritarian government's armed to the teeth and hire a bunch of police who see the public as their enemy. What's wrong with having a militarized police? A militarized police are trained to kill people and break things. A militarized police are trained to kill people and break things. And that's why more and more the police act like an occupying army, because we are occupied by 6 foreign banks that technically have filed in The Hague and put out public declarations that they have conquered the United States. And why would they do that? Because they can then get loans out in our name. I've heard them on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg TV on XM, say, you know, the top financial experts, don't worry, in Europe and the U.S., they'll never get away from the derivatives. Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, never going down. We control these countries now, and we've signed them on to our debt. And then they have discussions, can we control the people? And they say, yes, we can. They sit around thinking you're so stupid that the globalists sit around talking about how they are going to take everything you've got and how they can raise taxes up to above 80%, like France on average. How they can do that, because they're going to then make you live in tiny 250 square foot homes, entire families. That's Agenda 21, where they design everything to make the tax structure bankrupt you and make you incredibly poor and then dependent on government. You see, it's not just, are they coming for our guns? It's why are they coming for our guns? The guns going is the canary in the coal mine. Let's go ahead and go back to this 60 Minutes clip of Dianne Feinstein openly saying that her goal is to disarm Mr. and Mrs. America, and that that's her goal, but that she didn't have the votes. Well, guess what? She's got a bigger majority in the Senate now than they had back in 1993, 1994, 1995. And they are now coming for the guns and demonizing gun owners so that they can politically oppress gun owners and have a purge of gun owners. They want the confrontation. They want the police to get killed trying to confiscate guns. They want to have this fight. They think it's their time to take over. And if you don't realize that and get upset and speak out now and get really aggressive politically, they're going to take it as a green light. And they're going to come and sign an executive order to take our guns. I have it right here out of Reuters. In the Economist magazine, you name it. They're all saying, Obama, you don't even need a law. Use an executive order to repeal the Second Amendment. You're like, well, that's unconstitutional. That's illegal. It's illegal to have NATO and the UN being over our military. It's illegal to have the Senate passing fraudulent laws that they can spy on us and overthrow the Fourth Amendment. They can't do that. Everything these crooks are doing. They passed a law to reform insider trading that actually lets the ethics committee tell them it's okay to violate the law. This is what tyranny is when crooks get in control. And when crooks get in control, economies fail, societies collapse. But the Rand Corporation and others have said, well, we'll incentivize tyranny. Because it's true that when tyrannies come in, things collapse, and that's not good for the tyrants. So we'll call it Agenda 21. We'll call a predatory, collapsing economy an environmental system, and we'll actually put tyranny and collapse into an organized structure. And we'll exempt ourselves, like Dianne Feinstein admits on C-SPAN, from the gun laws they put on us. Let's go ahead and go to this 60 Minutes clip.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
So there you go. So when they get up on the news and tell you that you need to turn your guns in for the children, and Obama gets up there and goes, it's the worst day of my life, worst day of my presidency. It's up to the American people to do the right thing for the kids. I'm just worried about the next group that's going to die. And he looks up. This is what they're pushing. This is what they're going to do. And they know out of 200+ million adults out there, 315 million people total in this country, they know there's going to be more school shootings because they've made the schools gun-free for 25 years. They've advertised them as the place to go to kill kids. They've gotten these serotonin reuptake inhibitor folks jacked up on drugs. It's a culture now where they put out the appetite in the video games and the culture to go out and kill. You know the guy that shot the 2 firefighters, and Adam Lanza that reportedly killed the 20 kids and 6 adults, and the Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker that stabbed and shot people in San Francisco that Feinstein helped evade the police? Oh, you didn't know about that? We're going to play that later. Oh, you didn't know about that? When she was mayor? Oh, how'd she become mayor? Oh, the mayor got shot and killed. But she was there to discover it. Oh, she's a very nice lady. Have you looked in her eyes? But she's a very nice lady, you know, Emperor Palpatine level lady. She's the head of U.S. intelligence in the Senate. Don't you sleep good at night knowing she's there? Back for TV viewers, let me show you a nice photo of her. Here it is. Flashback, Senator Dianne Feinstein has concealed carry permit. This is a clip from her on C-SPAN around the same time, 1995, in testimony, talking about how terrorists tried to kill her. Talk about false flag, I've looked into it. And how they tried to bomb her, but the bomb didn't go off. Isn't that nice? And then they shot up her house. Sure they did, Dianne. Sure they did. And but don't worry, you know, the communists got dealt with, just like Patty Hearst, it turned out. That was all a staged FBI deal. I told you that more than a decade ago, that declassified 2 years ago. That whole Patty Hearst thing was staged. It was obviously staged. That's how they got gun control laws and stuff passed. It was a bunch of communists they were protecting, running around, blowing up and shooting stuff up, to then give left cover to gun-grabbing tyrants like Dianne Feinstein. Oh, look, the communists are attacking me. Turn your guns in. Let's go ahead and play this clip of the woman who has 5 bodyguards on average and who has a gun, so if you try to take her out, she can take you out. See, she gets to have guns, you don't. Here it is.
Personal anecdote about terrorism, because less than 20 years ago, I was the target of a terrorist group. It was the New World Liberation Front. They blew up power stations and put a bomb at my home when my husband was dying of cancer. And the bomb was set to detonate around 2 o'clock in the morning, but it was a construction explosive that doesn't detonate when it drops below freezing. It doesn't usually freeze in San Francisco, but on this night it dropped below freezing and the bomb didn't detonate. I was very lucky, but I thought of what might have happened. Later, this same group shot out all the windows of my home, and I know the sense of helplessness that people feel.
Oh, yeah, hit pause.
I know the urge.
Back it up a little bit, guys. That's what this lady feeds on, is helplessness. That's what these type of scum are into. That's what the tyrants want. They want your pension fund under government control, public and private, and now they're moving in that direction. They want you in a 250 square foot home like San Francisco and New York are doing, where they say, we'll raise your taxes to the point that's all you can afford anyways. These are social engineers. They are predators. Their minds work off how can I control, how can I be a parasite, how can I dominate, how can I secure my ill-gotten gains. That's how their brains work. Their brains don't work, hey, let me go out and paint beautiful paintings, or let me go out and produce beautiful music, or let me go out and write articles or write books, or produce things that people in free association choose to go out and purchase. No, they put you under laws by every benchmark that are tyranny and then exempt themselves. You know, Congress is exempt from insider trading because they said so. Congress is exempt from Social Security because they said so. Did you know that? Congress is exempt from hundreds of laws last time I checked. These crooks get up there and exempt themselves. And now they have a Justice Department that will ship guns into Mexico as a false flag to blame the Second Amendment, who isn't scared of Congress because they're just as corrupt as they are. And the few good senators and the few good House members, as good as they are still naive about how bad things are, or if they know the truth, they won't even go all the way. And when Ron Paul does go all the way in speeches saying there's been a CIA coup since Kennedy, I'm quoting Ron Paul in the speech, the government ships the drugs in, we've had a CIA coup, and the CIA should be abolished. That's the real Ron Paul, yelling and screaming. You ever seen Ron Paul in a those 1980s Morton Downey show? We ought to play that sometimes. Jumping up and yelling and screaming at people like Alex Jones and hopping around the stage. We ought to play that sometime on the nightly news. Hopping around on the stage yelling at people about freedom. See, Ron Paul's learned how to pace himself and control himself. When you love liberty, you explode with it because you know people are wrong that are trying to take your liberty if they're not bad guys. They're wrong. If they are bad guys, you really get upset because you know they're consciously trying to usurp you and run you over. And it's not that you're an aggressive person. It's that you have the instinct to become angry when someone wants your guns. And so Feinstein goes on in this clip to say that she knows the helplessness and how empowering it is to get a gun. Really, is that why it's nearly impossible to get a concealed carry permit in San Francisco? Is that why, unless you're literally a billionaire stockbroker? I saw an article in Bloomberg a few years ago where almost all, even the low-level Goldman Sachs people, all went out and got concealed carries in New York. I mean, you got to be insider to get those. Who do you always read about getting them? Famous gangsters get them. Movie stars can get them. Senators can get them. Congress people, Congress folks are always having to give their guns up because they'll get caught with a concealed carry. And all right, I turned it in. You're right. They're hypocrites. You don't get. In fact, I even have a copy of it over here. This is the county outside New York City. And you read this, it's all up to their discretion if you can get a concealed carry, and nearly impossible. It's up to their discretion. And that's what she's saying in her new bill. To own guns, the ATF will have to authorize it, and they're allowed to refuse anybody they want, even if you've never been convicted of a parking ticket. So here she is saying, I know the helplessness. Folks, I've studied Dianne Feinstein. She's probably the most evil person in the U.S. Senate. She basically outmans men. She's a monster. And she wants nothing more than to declare all your semi-autos illegal. And she goes further and says handguns, too. They're going to make them all illegal, and they're going to make you come turn them in. And when you don't turn them in, they're going to send all these SWAT teams out to kill people. Thousands, more than 2,000 were killed in the decade after gun ban, when all semi-autos were banned in Australia, including the real Crocodile Dundee. I know I've talked about this a lot. Let's go out to break, finishing up with her on C-SPAN. This is a woman who is going to have guns, going to have bodyguards. She's worth over $100 million. It's from between 79 and 150 plus in her financial statements. So I just say it in the middle, 100 million. This is a lady who made $100 million while in the U.S. Senate, getting paid $174,000 a year, and she wants your guns. But she is going to have guns. Here it is.
All the windows of my home, and I know the sense of helplessness that people feel. I know the urge to arm yourself, because that's what I did. I was trained in firearms. I'd walk to the hospital when my husband was sick. I carried a concealed weapon. I made the determination that if somebody was going to try to take me out, I was going to take them with me. Now, having said all of that, that was a period of time ago. And I've watched for these 20 years as terrorism has increased, both on the far extremist left and the far extremist right in this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to the uniform crime statistics from 1995 and around that area, terrorism was at all-time lows. The 60s and 70s, for real terrorism, was the height of terrorism, with more than 200 bombings from the early 1960s through the early 1980s. You all remember that who were alive then. There were communist bombings on a weekly basis. There was almost no right-wing bombings. But everything they say is a lie, except for those brief moments of truth when she's like, look, I want to take the general public's guns. And if I get the votes, Mr. and Mrs. America, you're turning them in. That's a quote. Okay? And then you move on to the real terrorism, to the fake terrorism like 9/11. And she's the head of the Intelligence Committee. And let me tell you, that lady knows who did 9/11. That lady is a piece of trash. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we're here. InfoWars Nightly News comes back at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'll be doing the news tonight with some special reports condensing all this Dianne Feinstein gun grab news down. We'll also play that Ron Paul clip on TV shows back when he was younger, blowing up at gun grabbers. The new issue of the magazine is out. You can buy them in groups of 10, 20, 50, up to 100 at cost. The last issue sold out very, very quickly. You can sign up for a subscription and get the next 12 issues delivered to your door. Or you can buy them in bulk and give them to people. And because print is going out, Newsweek just put out its last issue, we're going into print because the internet kill switch is going to be discriminating against patriots more and more in the future. It's important to have hard copies out there, and it's a big, like the old Rolling Stone was, glossy. Our first issue was not glossy. Now this is our 5th issue, and it's 2013, the year America dies. I'm going to cover this article coming up later in the next hour. Got a bunch of clips we're going to be getting to as well on a bunch of different fronts. But I hope that you will go to InfoWarsStore.com and sign up for a year subscription or buy the magazine in bulk at cost to give to friends and family, to leave at the dental office, to leave at work, to basically leave them everywhere you go, because this is like a 60-page glossy color book with graphics and crossword puzzles and color photos and documents. This is the kind of stuff people will read. In a sea of lies, let me tell you, a life raft of truth really stands out. 2013, the year America dies with a question mark. That decision is up to us, but the new issue is out. Came out yesterday, and it is going very, very quickly. I want to open the phones up here at the end of the year for what you think the top stories have been of the last year, what you think's coming in the next year, and obviously your take on the fact that Feinstein is saying in her new bill that the ATF will ban all guns. It gives them the power to ban any guns they want, not just semi-auto. I've now reread the bill. It says, and have at discretion of ATF, the President, and the Department of Justice, a buyback program for any citizen deemed to not be able to own firearms. What did Rahm Emanuel say a few years ago as Chief of Staff? He said, we'll just put you on a no-buy list like a no-fly list. Remember that? You can just type it in. Rahm Emanuel says put gun owners on no-gun buy list. You'll find the 4-minute clip on YouTube. That's the holy grail of tyrants. Just take them away. Take their guns. That's why we have the guns. And they want the guns now because they're getting ready to collapse society by design. You think things have been bad so far? They're really getting ready to drop the hammer. They've put this derivatives collapse into play. They can't even probably stop it now. And they don't want you armed during all of this. They want you to be at the mercy of the rioters, the mercy of the crime waves. But the opposite's happening. Even though we're going into a depression, there's less violent crime because the crooks are scared. And king crooks in Congress and the Senate, in the House and Senate, they're like low-level street crooks. They instinctively don't like their prey, their food, being armed. So the criminals are working together. 800-259-9231. Second hour coming up.
I'll get your guns, you American scum. Hello, it's Dianne Feinstein. I've taken over the broadcast, and I'm stepping on top of the world. I've got my concealed carry, but you won't have yours, Mr. and Miss America. I'll be getting those firearms no matter what you do.
Well, not if we can stop you, Dianne.
I'll get your First Amendment as well. I'm the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee.
If you're a radio listener and you go, what is going on? I was at a toy store and saw this Star Wars figure. I forget the character's name. And especially up close, if you look in the eyes, it is literally a spitting image of Dianne Feinstein. What's the character's name? I forget. I think CJ knew. But there he is, or there she is, Dianne Feinstein action figures. And look, she's got her firearm, her blaster, but you can't have yours. But she's a nice lady. She just wants the firearms because she's a friend. That's the only reason she wants them. Ladies and gentlemen, I may actually try to interview, this entity known as Dianne Feinstein's demon tonight on the nightly news. I'm thinking about how to best do it with a piece of dark satire. But there you go. In fact, guys, will you punch up my screen? I want to show them why I say it looks just like Dianne Feinstein. There you go. I mean, if you look at photos of her and watch how she speaks, I mean, she literally... Because I don't go off how people look, but if somebody's completely crazed-eyed and looks like the stalker, her eyes look like Ramirez, the Night Stalker's eyes, who, by the way, she protected. Do we have that clip from the local news? This is dealing with her helping to, well, blow their case. She just came out and announced all the evidence when he was still killing people so he could continue killing them. And people said she was told not to do it, but she did. Well, I mean, friends got to help friends. I mean, at least at a spiritual level, kindred spirits. So let's go ahead and go to the Night Stalker clip. Here it is.
When their best evidence on the Night Stalker case is made public by the mayor of San Francisco, detectives in Los Angeles are devastated.
It was really upsetting that somebody in that high a position could allow that kind of information to be released.
They had no idea how traumatized we were. Living this 16 hours a day and then have it all thrown out the window. I was not a happy camper.
L.A. Sheriff Sherman Block responds immediately by holding a late-night press conference of his own.
Some of these agencies have released some very critical, sensitive information. That information has not only jeopardized the conduct of our investigation, but in reality it places this community in jeopardy because it impedes our ability to go forward fully with the investigation.
There you go, and Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein is a gangster and a mobster and an un-American piece of filth who should be tried for treason. By the way, that's what the founders said. They said if somebody tries to overthrow any of the Bill of Rights, they should be tried for treason. She led the move to put warrantless wiretapping 10 years later, FISA, back in place and even expanded secret spying on the American people. But she gave lip service years ago against it, but then spearheaded getting it back through, kind of like Obama. Yeah, I'm against the NDAA. It's wrong. Turned out his lawyers wrote it. Well, don't worry about it passing. I'm going to veto it so it wouldn't get opposition. Oh, don't worry. He's going to veto it. Then it passes. He goes, well, I'll veto it. And I said, folks, he won't veto it. He wrote it. And who was right? I'm not smart, folks. I know known liars. We've all had, quote, friends in high school or college that turn out not to be our friends. And after you catch them lying to you about 10 times, you just don't associate with them anymore. Well, here's the deal. I can't quit associating with Dianne Feinstein. She sits up there on Capitol Hill defecating all over us, and I, quite frankly, am tired of her. I want her out of my life, out of my country, and off my back, you stinking witch. You stinking witch. It is Monday, the 31st day of December 2012. This year has gone by the fastest of any in my life. Just light speed. Tomorrow, I'm going to be here live on the first day of January 2013. A lot of people ask me, because I'm not bragging about it, why were you here during the Christmas week? A lot of the week. Why were you shooting videos for Infowars.com on Christmas Day? Why are you uploading videos at 1 a.m.? People can see them go live on YouTube. Why are you going to be here on the last day of the year? Why are you going to be here tomorrow? That'd be like asking on Christmas Day if I saw somebody robbing my car out in the driveway, why I'd go out and tell them put their hands up and call the police. I mean, we're under attack, ladies and gentlemen. It's not some extraordinary thing that I'm here fighting as much as I can. What's valuable in my life is standing up to these tyrants and having an effect. We're having an effect against them. Our reports about foreign governments, Russia and China, calling for the UN treaty to disarm us and saying they want to help Obama. Bizarre, off-the-chart stuff. Dianne Feinstein owning guns, but saying you shouldn't be able to own guns. Off-the-chart stuff. I mean, I would have been at home anyways today researching. This morning I found the clip. Had 100 views from 60 Minutes. 101 views. Been up for a while. Of Dianne Feinstein on 60 Minutes saying, Mr. and Mrs. America, I want to take your guns. I'm going to take your guns. I'm going to play the clip here in a moment. That is sensational. Because people don't read bills. Her bill says they can take any guns they want and actually confiscate them. But it's written where it says, well, you'll have to register guns you already own that are already registered through the NICS. You'll come in and we can either approve you keeping them or we may just order you to turn them in and we'll pay you for them. I mean, that is sensational. That makes me walk around and start hyperventilating. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I can have some tough guy try to start a fight with me on the street, and I don't start hyperventilating. But I've been walking around my house and things, basically having the beginnings of anxiety attacks and hyperventilating. Okay? Because I know what it means that they're coming for our guns. I realize how big of a threat this is. I mean, I'm not even getting chills anymore over this. I am just literally trying to control myself because I've got the energy that wild horses couldn't drag me away from this microphone. And then I get on the air and I'm so wound up, I can't even hardly talk now. Do you know what it signifies that this mafia that runs the Senate, a bunch of insider trading crooks on record? Do you know what it means when they have this wild look in their eye and the arrogance their minions are displaying and all the activities they're engaged in? You know what it tells me? It tells me they're going after our guns no matter what. And then a lot of you are like, well, I'll just turn them in. Yeah. You know what comes after you turn those guns in? You see, this isn't just going to be like Australia or New Zealand, where they got rid of the guns and flooded the country with foreigners who go around beating up the Australians en masse, and then the police protect the foreigners. It won't just be good old socialist balkanization. The globalists have said they're going to go after the veterans. We have the biggest prison population in the world. We have 7 million people a year in the criminal justice system, 4.5 million pushing 5 million in prison. They have school programs from Virginia to Arizona, from California to Michigan, where the Correction Corps, the big private prison industry, runs security in the schools and are basically training the kids how to be prisons. And they have contracts on how they guarantee the prisons will be 90% filled with people in the area. And the police go out on quota to arrest people and trump up charges if need be to put you in jail, just like Tulia, Texas, where the locals owned part of the private prison and put the entire male black population of the town in jail, in the prison. Slavery is back, ladies and gentlemen. And now they want to fill the prisons with veterans and gun owners. We are a prison society now. Prisons are colleges of corruption. They send you to the jails, to the juvenile halls, to the prisons, where you are immediately gang raped, you are immediately beaten until you submit and join the gang. And if you are white, you join the white supremacist, the Aryans. If you're black, you join the black supremacist. If you're Hispanic, you join the Hispanic supremacist. If you are Asian, you join the Asian supremacist racial triads. The prisons are set up, and they put each head of the gang over their wing, and the gangs run security. That way, the private prisons can have a minimal guard force and sit back and ship the drugs in to be sold to the prisoners. And you ask, how do they sell them drugs? Well, they sell their bodies, they sell their blood, and they sell their labor in the private prison industries, working for 25 cents an hour on average, to then displace our jobs on the outside. This government is light years into evil. This government engages in things openly that no other government's ever done. Open torture, open child sex slave trafficking, mainstream news, nobody gets in trouble. The government is now an army of murderers, criminals, pedophiles, insider trader types, high-frequency trading, total fraud. We have a giant criminal network in control, and now they're ready to dissolve the rest of the country. Because in the past, it was only poor people targeted by this. In the past, it was the weak targeted. In the past, this system operated like roaches right behind the wall in the crawl spaces. Now they're blowing their trumpet and announcing they're going to charge the general population. They're coming for us. What did I tell you a month ago on air? And since then, every week. Drums, drums, drums in the deep, they are coming. My instincts, not just my intellect, are 10 times any concern I've ever had. If it was a Richter scale, the needle is slamming and pegging. Okay? They're probably getting ready to blow up a bunch of federal buildings and blame it on us. Mass murder, stuff that'll make Fast and Furious. As Larry Pratt said, if they'd stage Fast and Furious consciously that killed thousands, including hundreds of children, at least 5 U.S. police officers, they will stage anything. They are staging it all. The timing, the MO, the whole story, all of it. They're doing it. My gut knows. But even if you don't go with your gut, look at what they're doing. Look at how they're operating. And you know, one reason my gut is so twisted right now is that I know I've crossed a threshold into a zone where there's a very good chance they're going to kill me. You know what? I don't care. In fact, it's more than not caring. I'm committed to this to a level of I'm not glad about that danger, but I accept it, and it lets me know I'm living a true life of value and an example to others despite all my problems, and that I am truly defending humanity and truly living. And I'm so alive that beauty in the world, both physical and emotional and spiritual, is opening up to me to levels that I've never even known, because I'm now stepping in to the true ultimate goal of humanity, is to be able to lay down your life for your others, to lay down your life for the innocent. And again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. You're praying for me. You're out there. But I just want to tell you something. The danger zone is here. We are on that highway to the danger zone. It's a cheesy song, but it says it all. Can we find that and play that? Thank you. It's on YouTube, or I think we even have it saved. Maybe we should come back with that and then go to phone calls. Because you're all on that highway to danger zone. So many people consciously think that they're going to go along with this and you'll be safe. No, the only way you're safe is by facing it. So I ask you all to pray for us, because we have people that want the guns of Mr. and Mrs. America. They want the average person disarmed. They hate you because they know you're good. They're evil. They want you helpless. Let's go to Dianne Feinstein saying, Mr. and Mrs. America, get ready to turn in your guns. This is her wish if she had the votes. She didn't have it 15 years ago. She's got them now. Here it is.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
And see, the reason she said that, I've noticed these witches always do it with other witches. And she was on there with one of the witches from 60 Minutes. When these witches, these anti-man, anti-family, anti-children, eugenics, abortion-loving, just whores of death, these angels of death. One of the new angels of death, of course, is Brad Pitt's wife. When good people stand down and just decide the government's their friend, everything goes to Hades in a handbasket. There's no doubt in my mind they killed Andrew Breitbart. The more I've investigated it, he was coming out with big investigations on Dianne Feinstein and insider trading. Been doing some research on Feinstein. People that go after her don't end up too well. She's a monstrous person who wants Mr. and Mrs. America disarmed. If she had the vote, she'd say, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn your guns in to me. And now the president's going to follow her recommendations, and she controls what bills are introduced. And the bill openly states, at the discretion of the ATF, all guns can be ordered turned in. I've read it. It's open-ended. Assault weapons and other firearms. It's all written open-ended. And because it's so over the top, people are like, oh, it can't mean that. And then she comes out and says, oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Do I get an apology from anybody out there? I mean, have you noticed that everything we've talked about is starting to come true? Do you want the other stuff to come true? Because a lot of people say, Alex, they leave you on the radio because they think you're just scaring people. And so I went and did some investigation into that and did find I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to professional athletes off record, UFC people, baseball players, you name it, basketball players, boxers. I mean, these are like tough guys. In fact, when I've been with Joe Rogan many times behind the scenes with top UFC people, they'll say, hey, man, I listen to your show all the time, but I have to turn it off because it's so scary. It freaks me out. But, you know, that's why they're tough guys, because they're in the real world. Somebody who really is a fighter, somebody who's been on the streets, a lot of those guys are like, you know, out of prison and stuff. They know when they hear stuff, it's dangerous. See, it's manly to actually know that there's a danger and want to deal with it. Cowards are so cowardly that they lie to themselves and say things aren't happening. You know what I'm talking about? You ever been around people that are, you know, really tough but don't brag about it, but also smart in business, whatever it is, and they have those wily eyes? You can see the intelligence in people's eyes. It's amazing. And anybody that has intelligence in their eyes knows we're in deep trouble. But then you get these other people who just smile at you and giggle like everything's funny. This is a short segment. I'm going to go to break and come back and talk to Judy, Frankie, Frank, David, Ken, and many others. I'm basically like somebody on the coast of a town when a 200-mile-an-hour hurricane's coming in with 30-foot swells, and I'm saying, folks, brace for impact. You understand? People out there tend to think that when you talk about something, it makes it happen. That by merely discussing all this evil and bringing it into people's attention, that somehow now I'm ruining their day. That I'm somehow making it a reality because they didn't previously know about it. Folks, the evil was already there, whether you knew about it or not. You ever walked out to a picnic table and you're sitting there eating at the picnic table for about an hour and you're cooking hamburgers? This happened to me once at Enchanted Rock in college. And I'm sitting there cooking hamburgers, big batholith rock cropping outside Austin, and there's some ladies out there and some friends, and we're drinking, you know, Bloody Marys, and I'm sitting there and I look underneath the bench and there's a rattlesnake coiled up right there. It was cold outside. I think it was in the spring. He'd come out and try to get some sun up under the edge where the sun was shooting underneath it. And there was a big old rattlesnake right there. Now, I guess as a modern trendy, I would just say, there's nothing there, I'm positive. I was like, whoa, everybody real calm. Let's get up, let's back out of here. And we threw rocks at it until the rattlesnake got, you know, woke up because he was cold. Not very dangerous then because they can't strike very good. And slithered off to a hole. Same thing one time I was in a deer blind. Start of deer season. And I'd gotten in there at dark, and I'm sitting in the deer blind on the ground. And when I got up, I was in there smoking cigarettes back then, still smoked. I got up, and I went out and urinated, and I came back, and I looked, and there was a copperhead coiled up. But it's the same deal. It's not like seeing the snake made the snake be there, and now I was in danger. Thank God now I've seen the snake. Now I know it's there. You see what I'm saying? You understand? The snake's there whether you admit it or not. There is a mindset to criminals. There is a design to what they build over and over again throughout history. And there is a design to what liberty lovers build as well. And our enemies openly write books Bertrand Russell and countless others, bragging that they've studied how good people fight collectivists and criminals throughout history, and how in the final revolution they would slowly destroy the family, slowly drug the food and water, slowly put out mind-numbing propaganda and debasing information through culture, with culture against man, to destroy humanity once and for all, so that they, the ascended ones, can be in full control. Well, they're not ascended to begin with that type of worldview, I will assure you, and they will never inherit the earth, and they will fail. And their greatest attempt at destroying us will destroy them. But that does not mean that in the process of this, things are not going to get extremely rough. Now, I want to cover one more article and then your calls, shifting gears out of the open announcement that they're coming to ban our guns. And on that subject, I want to say this. This doesn't have to happen. If we defeat them totally banning our semi-autos and registering everybody and making us turn in whatever guns they want and no gun buy list, outside law, if we defeat all this, they will go back to saying, we never wanted your guns. It's preposterous. We never wanted to ban any of them. That's just insane. And we'll have to come back with all the clips and all the bills and all the admissions to just show the public what liars they are yet again. They never give up. We never give up. And so many lazy people, spiritually lazy, I think at a core level, think that, oh, I have to fight for my freedom again. I give up. I'm demoralized. It's in the fight that you get stronger. And it's in the fight each time that you're going to get stronger. Your ancestors went through absolute unmitigated hell so that you'd have a few basic freedoms. And speaking of basic freedoms, not in this issue of the magazine, not the next, but the next I'm going to do on slavery. The fact that slavery's back. I saw an article where a lady opened up packages from China and found, letters from people in slave camps. And China admittedly puts political dissidents for no reason in slave camps. Buddhist and Falun Gong and anybody that criticizes communism. And it just reminded me of all the real slavery going on today. That's why the media always wants to go, oh, black slavery. Not that it wasn't terrible, but so that you only think of slavery as something in the past and don't see all the modern configurations of it. And will you guys put that next article up on screen for viewers, please? We're seeing this with RG3, who's had all these black commentators come out in the last month and say he's not really black. And why? Because he says he likes people of all, quote, races, and that he wants to be known for the character of his deeds and the content of his life, not his color. That's, by the way, paraphrasing Martin Luther King, what he said. And why would the gangbanger types and why would the people on ESPN, the same ones that come out and say, ban guns, the Ku Klux Klan wants you to own guns, when the Klan actually wanted to ban guns? That's on record. They got the first gun laws passed. Why do they say that? Because they want us all fighting with each other over race, and the power structure is threatened by a clean-cut guy, Christian, with a great record who's articulate and very smart, who says, I don't want to be part of your gangbanger stuff. They're like, oh, this guy isn't in with the brothers. That's some of the quotes. And he's not really black in all this garbage. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the power structure elevates people that will create division. The most racist channel out there is MSNBC. You turn it on, I mean, it is just wall-to-wall bashing white people. And why is that done? The social engineers aren't stupid. They want white people tuning through those channels to think blacks all hate them, to create real racism. They want you to be a racist but be a fake liberal, where you say the right things, but in truth, blacks don't like whites, whites don't like blacks, vis-a-vis. Fortune 500 funds La Raza, Metcha, all these groups that say, for those inside the race, everything, for those outside of the race, nothing. What does Raza mean? It means the race. The big mega corporations that are spiking the food with stuff that's absolutely annihilating people that have got Native American blood. That's what Hispanics are. Spanish bloodline mixed with Native American. They're just wiping them out. But as long as you tell them, I'm your friend, look, I hate white people. Again, you're not a true Hispanic, and you don't care about your raza unless you hate white people. And they force feed that. Because they don't want us getting together against the New World Order. There's a few thousand globalists, ladies and gentlemen. They want to play us off against each other. All right, I said I'd go to calls. We'll take calls to the balance of the broadcast and get to some more of these clips. I'm going to play Joe Biden saying he authored the assault weapons ban, but then in one speech, but in another saying, we're not going to try to ban your semi-autos. We'll never do that. That's a conspiracy theory. And a lot more. It's just that folks better get the news here. The reason Hollywood puts out movies like Machete and movies like Django is so it's fashionable and cool to hate white people. And you notice there's a lot of black folks that go see Django and they say, this is horrible. Let's make a joke out of this stuff. But that's the whole point, is it's all exploitive and vampiric. You see, Quentin Tarantino thinks he's real smart and real slick and real cool because he's part of the predator class now, playing groups off against each other, and then he laughs and says, oh, it's just funny. It's an exploitive film, blah, blah, blah. No. It's meant to create division. And it's meant to distract, you see, from everything that's happening in this culture. And I ought to tell a Quentin Tarantino story, but I'm not going to tell it. I'm not going to tell it. I'm not going to get invited to things and then tell stories. I'm just going to shut up right now. Let's go ahead and go to your phone calls as promised. Let's go ahead and talk to Judy in Florida. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. It's nice to talk to you again. I'm really concerned, as you are, about what's unfolding right now. And I'm older than you, and I remember what it was like just to have complete privacy and to be able to be anonymous and go to places and have no cameras. I mean, I live next to, some really beautiful beaches, and I've been out on holidays, and even when it's not holidays, having ATV vehicles with sheriffs on them and having a Coast Guard or a sheriff boat go up and down the coastline and have helicopters go over.
Listen, I go to city beaches on the Texas coast like Port Aransas, and then I go to the National Seashore, where I've gone my entire life since I was a baby. And the last 2 trips, I had more interactions with police than I had in my 38 years before that. And they literally walk over and do TSA behavioral profiling, and they go down the beach and talk to everybody. And the 3rd time they came back, I said, get the hell out of here, excuse my French. I said, listen, you're a little control freak over here assessing us. And I said, and you know who I am. That's why you've been back here 3 times. I said, get out of here, you un-American. You're the one that needs to be watched. I'm telling you, folks, they told us that it was for Al-Qaeda. They run Al-Qaeda. They've run all this anti-terror training. It's for us. And they've hired, literally, state police now pull people over and go, what kind of firearms you got at home? I mean, the country's gone, okay? And look, the good news is all the people that serve the system, they're going to have everything they have taken as well. But it doesn't matter because they're mental midgets. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm going to shut up. I even told the story about this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're the law-abiding citizens. This is what is so disturbing.
No, ma'am, you're the food. You're the food. You're the food. And they want the food to know. They want the food to know they're in charge. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, what is it going to take, and how much worse does it really need to get? I'm concerned about the Schultz and Nitsa moment. I don't want to be any part of it. Okay, I mean, and I'm a full-blooded American, and what we've gone through as a country. I sat in the living room, live coverage in 2001 when the major event occurred, and I asked myself when the first building went down, why did it not break off at the top?
They blew it up, man. I have the police on tape saying they blew them all up. But, I mean, they even said, we're getting ready to blow them up. It was on the news. They said, get back, we're blowing them up. But, a larger issue, ma'am, is, you see, they hate America. They want to have the hot purge. Their dream is to round up Mr. and Mrs. America. Do you understand? You're not, no one's, listen, it isn't like a rattlesnake where you throw rocks at it and it goes away. These are like King Cobras coming at us. You understand that? You're not going to get away from them without it. If we went totally apolitically and ran around like chickens with our heads cut off, they might not go ahead with the bombing of federal buildings and stuff. I guarantee you they're planning. They've done it before. They're getting ready to do it again. I know the look in their eye. They're going to drop the hammer on us. So, ma'am, what you're saying is you don't like the fact you can't go anywhere without being henpecked by Homeland Security?
It's the fact that I talk to people. It's the fact that I've been politically active. I no longer believe in protest, and I have my reasons, and it's hard to go into it because it's a painful subject because I don't believe in it anymore. But it's like, you know, when you see the repeat of history, when you know that people are lying, and they, like you said, they lie over and over and over again, and people still have this blind trust or this naivete or complete
And they
fear.
talk about it. They say when we lie, we must lie about everything to create a total 3D model of lies where the whole world is a lie with lies within lies within lies within lies. See, we watch Joe Biden tell lie after lie. You're like, man, he's an idiot. Lie? No. He's targeting people to train them to accept lies. God bless you, ma'am. Look, you say you don't believe in protest. When the media is giving something attention up front, you know they're going to control it. What they don't want is you to go to Bilderberg every time it's in the U.S. People protested Bilderberg 5-6 times in the U.S. Every 4 years it comes here. Finally, it was an international blowout in the media, and they had to cover it, and it made them look like fools. It took patriots 5 or 6 times over 20-something years to finally make them admit it was there. And then all those decades of saying it didn't exist, listen, the system has never been in more trouble. That's why they're trying to drop the hammer right now. Protesting is banner hangs on highways. Protesting is calling into talk radio. Protesting is going to the meet and greet with your U.S. senators and shouting them down. It's not being nice anymore. It's getting aggressive. It's finding out where they go to church to stage for the cameras and going and getting in line and saying, getting their hand, looking them in the eye and saying, I don't appreciate you trying to disarm us. We're not your slaves. And being real cold about it. Okay? We all need to let them know. They want us to know with the NSA they're watching us. They want us to know they're following us. They want us to know with the cops pulling you over for no reason and the cops coming over when you're sitting there at the beach going, what's going on today? What's in your coolers? How you doing? They want you to get used to that. Go, hey, get used to us in your face. I see cops at restaurants. I walk over. And I say, you guys good guys or bad guys? You know about the New World Order? You know about America being occupied? A lot of times they go, yeah, we know. I'll go, good, enjoy your lunch. But if they buck up, I go, oh, what? What, you don't like me swaggering over to you? I'm supposed to be scared of you? I watched video of the TSA at the NFL game with drones over it. And they strut around with guns on their side of their legs like commandos, and it's all these roid head type guys bugging their eyes out at people. I mean, I'm sorry. I see a guy doing that. I'm like, why are you acting so tough? Why are you acting like there's a problem? Why are you acting like I'm bad? Because you want to teach me how to be a perp. You want to teach me that I'm being inducted into the prison, and you're the big bad prison guard, aren't you? Oh, we got a situation. Hey, what's wrong with you, sir? What's wrong with me? I don't like an occupied army. I'm not in Fallujah, Jack. Oh yeah, I see. I'm going to start videotaping, and I do sometimes. Like, I got one of these things on my phone right here. But then it turned out they were all listeners, so I haven't put the video out yet. But still, why do they have patrols on the hike and bike trail now in the middle of nowhere where you might see one person an hour? Why'd I run into 4 of these guys? And I come over, oh, what's going on? Keeping this safe from blah, blah, blah. You know about the government staging 9/11. You know about this and that. You know about how the government's funding Al-Qaeda. Yeah, we're listeners. We agree with you. We know it's terrible. I'm like, oh, okay. But you need to like, see, they're trying to dominate us, ladies and gentlemen, and they're trying to get all the rest of the minions of the system to think it's okay to dominate us. They win, it's over. Frank in New York, thanks for holding, brother.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, brother.
Very good, thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank you for opening my eyes. I was a zombie before all this situation happened. From 9/11 on, I've been awake big time. Basically, my question to you is this. I'm strongly considering getting a gun, basically, because I don't trust the government at all. I understand what they're trying to do. I have a good friend of mine that owns a gun shop, and he actually pushed me to get, to go for my gun license for a permit. But unfortunately, it's very difficult to get a gun permit in New York, where I'm at. Now, the question is this, though. What do you think is going to happen? Are they really going to go and repeal the Second Amendment?
They're openly calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment now. Before they said, oh, there's no Second Amendment right to own guns. And now they're like, you have a right for us to repeal it. Yes, they are going to, your governor has said he's going to order them turned in. I don't have the New York gun laws in front of me, but do you need a permit for a rifle? Something like a bolt-action rifle?
Question that I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I got to pull up your laws on that. But let me tell you something, sir. There is nothing better under heaven and earth than a double-barreled shotgun sawed off at legal length. I mean, usually with a criminal attacking you or something, the truth is that's one of the most deadly and best weapons out there. And it's also in a moment with a criminal busting in your door or somebody trying to rob you or somebody trying to carjack you, a sawed-off shotgun is you just pull it and pull the trigger. And, I mean, then everything in the way is blown to kingdom come. So I personally would get something like a bounty hunter, legally, sawed off their manufactured short-barrel 12-gauge shotgun. But you can also get great little semi-auto 410s. I mean, there's just so many shotguns out there. And you can also, well, here's the deal. A lot of states have already basically banned guns. You're already registered. And it's just a shame. Stay there. We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go back to your calls and wide open phones into the third hour. Now it's out in the open that they're coming after our guns. I'm going to finish up with the caller in New York here in just a moment. But the fact that they'll come right out and say, yeah, we want to ban your guns, make you turn them in, Mr. and Mrs. America, it really shows you that they've got some big things planned. They're not going to even get anywhere near getting away with this unless they attack some of their own federal buildings. They like to kill kids because that gets some extra gas mileage, plus they like it. So they'll probably kill some kids in federal daycare centers like in 95, which if you haven't seen the film A Noble Lie that I'm in and that we sell at InfoWarsStore.com, I mean, it's an open and shut case. We even know who did the attack, the names of the men that bombed the buildings. We have the police officers and other witnesses who were actually death threatened by the FBI. They said, we'll kill you and your wife if you don't shut up. We've got the head of the HUD department who was there and witnessed them planting the bombs. They told her it was but gray sticks of butter. We know exactly who did that. And so criminals do the same thing over and over again. They'll hit federal buildings. Very few federal buildings have nurseries in them. If you're in a federal building with a nursery, look out. That's the kind of places they'll attack. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your bosses are firing banks, but they will kill you. It's to make you victims so you can all, in the peer pressure, go to the event and grandstand. When they do this, though, you got to have cameras out immediately. Because a lot of times their operatives will be there watching after they commit a mass shooting or watching after they blow something up. They're going to be watching for witnesses. They're going to be watching for you. So especially if you work in federal buildings, I would carry video cameras on you. All your phones do it now. All Americans, our people were on the plane with the underwear bomber. And that's how we exposed it was government op. It later came out it was government op. I hope you don't look up the congressional testimony. But it was confirmed. See, that's something that shakes them up. Every day we've got more people watching them. Real patriots. They want us busy watching each other and the cops treating us all like we're suspects. Well, we're watching you. And a lot of police are waking up and are now watching the feds. I talked to them. So good luck. Good luck with your next stage terror attack like Fast and Furious. Let's play this clip of Feinstein one more time before I go back to Frank. Here it is.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that.
All right. I've got to check the town, the city, but I know the state laws in New York are very restrictive. To answer the fellow's question, the reason I said a 410, if you're not a firearm owner, semi-auto 12 gauges might, the recoil might freak you out. All you do is just hold it firm and there's really no recoil. But the best gun in most states that gets around registration and jumping through hoops for handguns or even for rifles are your revolvers. And you can get revolvers like the Judge put out by Taurus that carries 410 shotgun shells. And it's just a really great weapon. It really is first class. For somebody who may not have the best accuracy. And plus, you don't want to kill your kids in the next room, so it's flangeable. So, Frank, does that answer your question from New York? You got to check your local laws and things, okay? All right, Frank's gone. We're going to come back, and we're going to go to Frank in North Carolina. Then we're going to go to Ken, David, Phil, and others. Stay with us. I'm compiling some of the numbers. I know Mike Adams covered it on Friday. But the previous record was right after the election in November for 5 million guns sold in 1 month. Previous record to that was 3 million when Obama first got elected. Now they're reporting that in December, the estimates are 10 million guns plus. I'm going to be getting to some of that news, 10 million guns. And that's just the ones that are being registered through the NICS system. Oh, you scum, New World Order. The only way you would have gotten away with this is if myself and Ron Paul and countless others hadn't been exposing you all the way. Now, you're operating like people don't know what you're doing because you're a bunch of haughty criminals. And the criminals are always overconfident. I'm glad you are, filth. We're going to get you. And look, they're just criminals. And they know they've robbed us with the insider trading and the banker bailouts, and they just have an instinct to disarm us. It's a good instinct. Listen, if I was a dirty criminal like you, New World Order, I'd want people's guns too. Let me tell you, though, the police on average are not criminals. They're a bunch of Dudley do-rights hired to follow orders. And, you know, cops, if I was you, I'd sign up with the American people and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. I would not be signing up with the likes of Dianne, insider trading, Queen, King, Feinstein, and Mr. Maddow and all those people. I mean, if you got any sense in your head, no, it doesn't matter. If you make the wrong decision, your actions will punish you. But I really do care about you. And I wish you'd come in and join the American people and your ancestors and be part of the big win. Because we are going to win. David in Oklahoma, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Alex. I talked to you last night. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I gave you the Dred Scott thing last night and this stuff with Barbara Feinstein and the rest of them. The other thing I want to give you, too, is the Bill of Attainder and ex post facto law. That's really what this stuff is. Americans need to get smart. These guys know that basically the average guy on the street went to a public high school and have no clue about any of this stuff. Yet at the same time, these are the weapons that they use against societies throughout history. That's why I say we got to get smart. You have to crack books and figure out what the so-called lay of the land is and realize that, for example, we talk about slavery. We don't know what slavery is. We don't know what a psychopath is, even though we sit around and talk about it. Psychopaths want to rule the world and create willing victims. So they call into programs like The Alex Jones Show or Rush or Hannity or somebody like that and vent, emote, get angry, scream at the top of their lungs, but aren't understanding the problem.
No, I agree. We need to understand why the same government gets set up every time in history, because psychopaths end up getting into government. That's what they lust after. I mean, any criminology book will tell you that. Government is packed with them. And they set up these systems, and that's why we have guns. Because our founders were not psychopaths. They were really enlightened, cool people. And they said, we're going to protect you from rapacious, wicked, bad men. Keep government small. Keep taxes low. Don't trust government. Here's guns. You have a right to protect yourself. Watch out. Good luck. You're going to need it. I agree with you. I appreciate your call. Okay, we're going to just run through calls. I promise. You're going to see it happen. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We're going to go to Frank and Ken and everybody else, many others, straight ahead on this last of the year radio transmission. Well, it's the last radio show I'm doing in 2012 because tomorrow is 2013. And we'll be here live on New Year's Day. Because, sure, I'd like to go on vacation. I'd like to go camping with my children, which we had planned. But we're not going to be doing that now. And you know why? Because my children have no future if we don't fight the globalist. Dianne Feinstein, it's on record, the president intends to use her legislation. She's the head of the Rules Committee, also the head of the Intelligence Committee, and she has said, and the video is up on Infowars.com and is going super viral right now. Go to prisonplanet.com, go to Infowars.com, get our article and our video, and send it out to everyone you know. It is the top story in the featured news section of Infowars.com. Video, Dianne Feinstein says her goal is to disarm all Americans. Quote, if I have my way, Mr. and Mrs. America will turn them all in. I've already played the clip 5 times. I'll play it after I take some calls. But right now, let's play some clips I have not played yet. These are clips I have not played yet here. Joe Biden said 4 years ago during the last campaign, the campaign before this one that just ended in 2008, he said, it's ridiculous. Nobody's coming after your guns. Nobody's coming after your shotgun or my Beretta. Well, a Beretta is an assault weapon, according to her bill. And he wrote an assault weapons bill that was even more draconian than the one that got passed in the early 90s. And we got a clip of him first bragging in the last debates about how he wrote the assault weapons bill. See, notice in the first election, they wouldn't admit this. In the second, they did, because they knew the fix was in, and they were getting ready to drop the hammer, to where every time there's another shooting, it's not, hey, why is it in victim disarmament zones? Why are these guys always under psychiatric care? They always get the guns illegally. In every case that I've seen, they're always into Satanism. That's in the news again. Night Stalker, Son of Sam, Harrison Kleinbold, Kip Kingle, Adam Lanza, what's this crazy guy's name shooting the firefighters? Devil worshiper. Where's the Church of Satan based? I mean, it just goes on and on. Oh, you didn't know about Newtown? Or the Kingdom of Satan? It's one of those big groups. The point is, it's all here in the news. This is the type of garbage that we're talking about and that we're dealing with. And, oh, no, just turn in your guns. Nice people, Mr. and Mrs. America. That's what we're being targeted by. And, again, are all Satanists really even Satanists? No, a lot of them are just into it for sex and drugs and trying to become powerful. They're weak people trying to become powerful. But there are really dark people who resonate with the outer limits, event horizon of darkness. There is real evil. And I'll assure you, all these people seeking after power, if they ever really brush up against real Satanism, they're not going to want to be part of it. I have brushed up against real Satanism. And let me tell you, I've seen the eyes before, and the eyes are the eyes of Dianne Feinstein. I'm going to go to your calls, but let's go to this clip of Biden first saying he wrote the assault weapons ban, which isn't even technically true. He wrote one version that was even more draconian. In fact, here's an article, flashback, Biden steals credit for assault weapons ban. That's the Weekly Standard. Because technically, even this is a lie. See, they lie even when they tell the truth. He did write one that was more draconian, but not the one that got passed. But he brags, I wrote it, I got it passed. More lies. And then he comes out and says to a different crowd, I don't want your guns, when his ban would have banned handguns, like the 9mm Beretta that he says he owns. Here's the clip.
I think he just made an admission against self-interest. I don't know that he's mentally qualified to own that gun. No, I'm being serious. Look, this idea, we go around talking about people who own. I'm the guy that originally wrote the assault weapons ban that became law, and then we got defeated. Then then Dianne Feinstein went to town on it and did a great job. Look, we should be working with law enforcement right now to make sure that we protect people against people who are not capable of knowing what to do with a gun because they're either mentally imbalanced and or because they have a criminal record. And anyway,
we got one more.
I guarantee you, Barack Obama ain't taking my shotguns, so don't buy that malarkey. Don't buy that malarkey. They're gonna start peddling that to you. I got two. If he tries to fool with my Beretta, he's got a problem. I like that little over and under. You know, I'm not bad with it. So give me a break.
So there you go. Give me a break. Now you heard him. He wrote the original one that he said Dianne Feinstein did a great job with. That was the one where they'd physically make you turn them in. And now she's back with one of those. Her new bill says, well, we make existing owners come in and get authorization and fingerprinted. You've already been registered. And then we need to have a forced buyback in there. So if we want, we can take them in. It gives them the power in the new bill, it says, to do a forced buyback. And her and Cuomo are in the New York Times saying exactly that. And people at Infowars.com are in the comments going, where is it in her bill? I don't see it. Well, you don't read the New York Times or her statements. It says right there as a little addendum. You better learn how these lawyers operate. Again, stop being so naive. We're a couple weeks into this and people are still like, are you sure she wants to actually make me turn some in? And I don't see that. I don't. That wouldn't happen. Now, that's not true. You looking forward to going into the ATF and being fingerprinted and them taking your guns in and saying, all right, come back in a few weeks after our backlog. We'll see if you get them back. Because that's how they've done it in all these countries. They're going to skip the thing of making you come in and fingerprint and register them and then later ban them. They're just saying, you know what, we're going to have it where you come in and re-register them and fingerprint and everything, and then we might just on the spot do a forced buyback. I mean, the stinking bill on our website says that. I looked at it 2 days ago the last time, unless they've just changed it again. With knowing her, she hadn't introduced it yet. Doesn't matter. We've got it saved. We got it printed off, even if she tries to memory hole it. But I know when I go to the bill, it's still going to be there. It's the naivete is off the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and go to this clip, and then I'll go back to your calls, Ken and others. Let's go ahead and play this clip of Dianne Feinstein, again, saying she wants you to turn in your guns, Mr. and Mrs. America. Here it is.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
But now she says she's got the votes. I mean, there she is. Mr. and Mrs. America, you're going to turn your guns in. I mean, do you believe her? They'll never get away with that. Oh, they'll never get away with Obamacare. They'll never get away with putting the UN over our military. Folks, they think you're done. And mainline Republicans aren't even telling you the full story. Let's go to Ken in New Jersey. Thanks for holding. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex.
Hey,
I just had a bunch of points I wanted to run through. I'm an aspiring EMT, and I know that sometimes they want us to get a whole bunch of shots, especially if we want to get promoted to be paramedics.
Yeah, there's no law. They make you take a bunch of deadly shots, lowering your immunity, yeah.
Right, but I looked into exemption forms, which I'm going to use as my defense, and on top of that, if I'm correct, you don't really have to get the shots unless you're going to actually do hospital time in the academy portion of your
By the way, they're criminally, by color of law, trying to mafia you into taking deadly shots because Big Pharma wants to mandate everybody taking them outside law. And so you're saying in your defense. Notice, they're attacking you, but they've got you talking about your defense. Go ahead.
Well, no, you're completely right, Alex. And the first thing I said to myself is, there is no law. Why are they telling me I have to do this in the first place? I mean, I actually talked to some people on my crew. Some of them are awake. I talked to them about the NDAA, and they agree that we shouldn't even need things like a Bill of Rights Defense Committee, and they talked about those 2 firefighters that got shot and probably how they're going to have to start considering carrying some arms of their own so stuff like this doesn't happen to them. But my whole
You know what? I think that's a great idea. I think they deal with a lot of crazy situations. Firefighters have always been targeted during rioting. You know, I think they ought to have, you know, the government will want a training course. What, you trust them to put out fires, to not use guns? I think that it ought to be up to the departments to do their own training, and I say armed firefighters.
You're right, especially since some EMS and fire companies are merged with the police department. They should consider giving us some kind of defense against these types of things as well.
Yeah, that's out of Wisconsin. They originally, or is it Michigan, where they first came up with those... Where it's all one department.
Right. But,
the only danger is that is then they turn the firefighters into secret police. We don't want the firefighters to be police, but I'm not against. I want to be armed, so why shouldn't they be armed going into dangerous situations? I mean,
right, and we should probably find that kind of common ground where we're protected against becoming some kind of secret soldier for them, but at the same time we're able to defend ourselves.
I hear you. What was your TSA point?
Oh, I was just going to say that...
Stay there. I'll go to your point after the break, then I'll go to everybody else. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm Alex Jones. Dianne Feinstein says she wants your guns. Okay, finishing up with Ken in New Jersey on a TSA issue. Go ahead and make your point. Go ahead, Ken. I held you over so you could get on air.
Yeah, Alex, can you hear me?
Every caller says, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Bro, we are on the air, man.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, you asked us what we think the biggest thing of 2012 is. Well, here's my take on it. The TSA is one of the biggest weapons against freedom-loving Americans because they're giving us prisoner training. And when you started mentioning stuff about an October surprise and how they were going to do something in Missouri or something and the police were calling in, I was shocked when I watched a report on Infowars.com how you said it was going to occur in, like, one of the black areas or something. There are tanks or whatever rolling around. These people are like, oh, yeah, they're protecting us. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw that. You were 100% right, but when we're getting acclimated to accept all this by the TSA showing up everywhere, how do we defend ourselves against this, and is there really hope for the American future?
There is. They wouldn't be trying to get us acclimated for martial law if they weren't afraid of us. They're in the wrong. So when they've got a bunch of guys in commando outfits bugging their eyes out at you, you've got to walk over and say, why are you bugging your eyes out? And if they beat you up and take you to jail, that's the way it is. Make sure somebody videotapes it. I mean, you've got to let them know that, man, you're acting like a clown. I mean, but they hire guys and put them out there to do that. And they tell them, show a presence out there to make people feel good. That's a cover story they tell these blockheads. It's meant to intimidate the public, make the public not like the police, so they can then create an us against them mentality. Instead, you need to go over and talk to these people. But most police aren't like that. They've tried their best to turn the police into a bunch of mental patient goons. It's a battle for every heart and soul and mind out there. Thank you for the call, my friend. Up next here is Frank in North Carolina. Welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking my call, Alex. Been on hold for about an hour and 23 minutes here. But
Anyway, wish you and all your listeners and the info warriors out there good luck in the coming year. I've got a sense of dread about it myself. I think you basically have to go around, you know, if you're going to operate and function on a day-to-day basis, you basically have to go around with sort of a sense of disbelief, suspended disbelief. And anyway, I've been studying all this for about 7 or 8 years now, and I know you talk about these people all the time, but I just wonder if it would help if we connected the dots for people. All these people behind the anti-Second Amendment agenda, if you took the so-called Jews out of it, the whole thing would fall apart. I mean, it's just one after the other. These people only make up roughly 2% of the entire population of this country. They are behind all of this.
Well, first off, we don't screen your phone calls, so we take the calls in the order they're received. So I'm sorry you were on hold for an hour and 30 or 20 minutes. I always wonder why people, though, once they get on air, tell people how long they've been on hold. What is the point of that?
Well, you kept moving me back. I was number 3.
No, that's not true, sir. Sir, we didn't ask you what you called. Well, we're calling it about. We didn't screen your call. Are you lying and saying that we screened your call?
Yes, you have begun screening the calls, yes.
No, we ask where somebody's calling from, and I mean, if somebody volunteers. Oh, you're saying we didn't put you on air. Okay, all right.
I've called your show many times. You've never screened me up until, I think this call you did. The guy asked me, what do you want to talk about? And that's a recent phenomenon. I think that happened the last time.
And you told him you want to talk about what?
Basically, to be honest with you, I don't even remember. It's been over an hour and 20 minutes ago. And you kept saying I was coming up next. After each commercial, you'd say, okay, Frank in North Carolina is coming up next. And then you'd take someone else's call.
And you think that I knew what you were going to talk about. I read your mind.
I don't know. I was wondering.
Well, listen, my only issue here is I agree with you that it's not right that a large portion of the Israel lobby lobbies for us to pay for M16s for people in Israel so they can, quote, defend themselves, but then lobbies for us to be disarmed here. And I've actually put out 2 videos on that last week, and I've covered that here on the radio. You must have missed it. Secondarily, though, I could tell that you sounded upset with me, so I wanted to get that out there. Now, specifically, because the phones are getting so bad in this country, I've told John, make sure their phone sounds all right and that they're able to even talk. But I want to get it clear here, sir. We put you on the radio, but you still want to accuse me of censoring you. That's correct, right?
I was asking the question.
No, let's hold you over. No. I understand. It makes it even tastier and better for you if you decide I was trying to hold you back. So let's come back to you. The sands of time for the Second Amendment are running low if you don't wake up and take action. All right, here's the deal. I have a lot of guests on the show. I try to take a lot of phone calls, but I'm greedy to get the info out. I've got a lot I want to say. And it always irritates me because we don't screen phone calls, so we get some really bad phone callers sometimes. Sometimes it's all people that can't talk and are idiots, and sometimes it's really great people. But I'm just not into screening calls. I mean, I call into talk radio, and if they don't agree with what I'm saying, they say, no, we're not interested in that opinion right now. Click. We don't do that. That's what screening a call is. I have told John the last 6 months or so, and he hadn't really done it, that, look, find out if somebody can talk or if they're drunk. Ask them something. That's not screening a call. Or if they have a bad phone. I mean, somebody calls in and says, I hate Alex, he's a piece of trash. You're going to go on air. And what irritates me is there's this big fake conspiracy theory over the years that all my calls are fake and we screen the calls. So I'm like, why don't I just bring in full call screening? I mean, if that's what you really want. And then it becomes a conspiracy with this caller that I am passing him over. Man, I just look up at a screen and just read off some names so folks know they're coming up, which I should probably even quit doing that. I mean, who cares? I'm just trying to be nice to folks that are on hold, because then I feel guilty that I'm doing the show, then I make people sit on hold. And why? It's my radio show. I mean, in this country, if you're nice, people use it against you. Now, that said to the caller, you could have called in and said anything you wanted to about Israel. But instead, you had to make it about me. And you had to make it about how I'm trying to cover something up. And that makes me angry because I'm angry for you. I mean, I've made films exposing Israel attacking the USS Liberty, and that made all the anti-Israel people go crazy and say I was covering up because I interviewed all the top admirals and people, and they said the Pentagon was involved with Israel to do a false flag to blame it on Egypt. And they said, oh, he's covering up for Israel, saying the U.S. government did it. No, I interviewed Admiral Moore, all of them, dozens more. The first mate, the judge advocate general. I mean, I've probably done 50 interviews on this. And to them, it wasn't about exposing a false flag. It's about saying Alex isn't real, we're better men, we're better women, Alex is a fraud. So bashing Israel just becomes, let's not stop corruption that could be in Israel. Let's not deal with that. Let's make it about everybody's bad in the world but us who love Dr. David Duke or whatever. You see, you can't dislike some corruption and problems in Israel from a real perspective. You've got to go off and just absolutely... See, and they also twist what I say. And again, I couldn't imagine being that intellectually dishonest. And it's like a religion. I never said that if you think Israel is corrupt or does anything wrong, you're mentally ill. I said the people that say that I work for Israel and that I've never criticized Israel are mentally ill. Two separate things. But they take that and run with it and say, and edit it. They edit it with me saying, if you don't like Israel, you're mentally ill. When Israel's an incredibly diverse situation, politically. And so we're against these wars, we're against these invasions, we're against the West using al-Qaeda, we're against Israel using DU on the West Bank. We're effective, and the anti-Israel crowd spends more time on Alex Jones, literally, I'm really kind of complimented, than they do on Benjamin Netanyahu, the entire Israeli Knesset, everything. It's all about me. And that's because most of them are globalist run. Not the minions that call in, not the holier-than-thous that think there's like, I can read his mind that he was calling about Israel and he got through the call screener because all we're doing is trying to make sure the guy can string sentence together. It's not call screening. Checking your phone. Okay, say something to me because I've told him, hey, these phones are bad. At least make sure they can talk. That's not screening a call. And so he doesn't tell him what he's calling it about. He gets on air and then thinks I held him back because I could read his mind. Or he's called in before and he thinks I recognize his voice before I've even talked to him. Just craziness. I've got stacks of news here. I'm doing business during the breaks. I don't even remember your name till I look up on screen to remember it's Frank. And the fact is, it's crazy. I'm up here going after Dianne Feinstein, trying to defend the Second Amendment. I'm trying to rally America to defend the Second Amendment. And it becomes a diversion to say this group or that group. Of course, Israel, elements of it, elements of the Communist Chinese, elements of England, all these guys want our guns. The Russian TV's calling for us to give in our guns, RT. Because a nation's strong when it's armed. And the whole world's marveled at us being armed. Yeah, listen, I think all these countries are criminal run. I'm against attacking Iran. There are a bunch of crooks running that over there. I don't like Assad, but I don't want al-Qaeda to take over his country. See, I'm like Thomas Jefferson in that I don't like any big government. I don't trust any government. I don't like any of it. Of course Israel's involved in false flags. I've made a bunch of films about it. Of course Israel has staged fake al-Qaeda attacks. That's in their own newspapers. Do all the Israel bashers ever cover me doing that? No, they say, Alex covers up for Israel, and he never talks about it, and he screened my call. And I'm just like, man, that's weird. It's just weird. And I have found the anti-Israel crew is so verminous, so rat-like. See, let me explain something. I don't like the people running Israel, and I don't like you either. Can you get that in your head? It's kind of like two restaurants across the street from each other. Both of them serve up food full of rat droppings. I'm not going to either one. Are you sophisticated enough to wrap your brain around that? Because, see, there's bad human nature. Every group has psychopaths. Every group has bad people involved in it. And it falls into the globalist program to get us fighting according to religion or race, you see. And 9 out of 10 of these anti-Israel people 5 years ago we're not saying Jews are bad. We're only saying that, you know, these Zionists are bad. 5 years later, the very same people are like, no, we're saying the Jews are bad, they all need to be killed, and Hitler was a great guy, and Hitler didn't do anything, and Hitler didn't kill anybody. And I've gone and researched it, folks. Hitler was an absolute psychopath out of his mind, surrounded by a bunch of crazy psychopaths who absolutely wanted to rule the world and was a eugenicist. And let me tell you something. Hitler was funded by the Rothschilds and was a Rothschild heir. And I've done the research, folks. That's a fact. The Rothschilds and others funded the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute that created the stuff that Hitler was into. See, my fault is I've actually done research and I get, whoa, we're facing a group of psychopaths all trying to screw each other as well at the same time, out of control of the New World Order. While they try to hurt us, they're a bunch of bad people. I don't care if it's a black psychopath, a Jewish psychopath, a Chinese psychopath, a Japanese psychopath, a Mexican psychopath. These people all like the same stuff, and I don't like them. By the way, you know, look at Dianne Feinstein. I mean, the woman's got eyes bluer than mine, skin whiter than mine. I mean, what is a Jew anyways? I mean, what are the Rothschilds? I sit here and say the Rothschilds are at the head of the New World Order. You go to every one of these anti-Israel, anti-Jew sites, and all they do is attack yours truly. And it's a mix of things. It's Cass Sunstein cognitive dissonance, where they try to get people fighting the New World Order to adopt an anti-Semitic system so the media can then demonize the entire movement and politically kill it. Where I'm just trying to defend the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, private property, the family, for everybody to have it. A big tent where we can actually defeat the globalist. We're never going to defeat them with this divide and conquer. And when I hear the bizarreness of the call, when I go to the guy, he complains, he says this thing about Israel. He could have just kept rolling about that, but instead, it's all about how I screened his call. You're on the air, jerk. Okay, you're on the air, and how dare you sit there and say that? Hey, let me guess, you think I work for Israel, don't you?
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah, right, you're just saying that. Look, this is what I don't like. I don't like the mental... No, the animosity is over the death threats I get daily from the anti-Israel crowd, and the idiocy and the dishonesty of all the other jealous talk show hosts, where the cool thing to do is talk about Jews all day. And these same people that said they weren't anti-Semitic 5 years ago now all have Jews with giant hook noses on their websites. They're a bunch of... Look, do you understand? The people that blame everything on the Jews are sick people who need to scapegoat someone and are dangerous, okay? But so is the race cult type groups that dominate Israel as well. You guys are the same, and you just don't even know it. Go ahead.
Okay. It's not just that, Alex. What kind of puts me on edge is you seem to have sort of, even with the callers that call in that worship you, and I've been one of your biggest defenders for many years, the callers that call in and worship you and agree with you, and I think you're a good guy, I like you, but you even seem to have animosity towards most all of your callers.
I'm going to be honest with you, sir. I am very, very aggressive, and I work too much. And I appreciate your call. This is going nowhere. I was on the hike and bike trail yesterday jogging. And for some reason, there were people with German Shepherds and pit bulls out there yesterday. And I watched them off leashes run up and menace families and stuff. And after the 5th time of this happening, jogging down, a family with 3 German Shepherds off the leashes is coming. And if you got aggressive dogs, they should be on a leash. The law is they should be on a leash, but I'm not, you know, you should control yourself. And the people come by with the German Shepherds that growl at me and run around me, and I just ignore it, and I watch them do it to the next group behind me. I come back by, and the dogs see me 50 yards away and start running at me and then growling when I yelled, "Stop, dog." And I simply said to the guy, his wife, and their 2 teenage kids, I said, "Hey, man, you need to have these dogs on a leash. They're out there menacing people." And the guy bowed up and got in my face. And it was just ridiculous. I sat there and I blew up at him. And I said, "Well, come on, hit me first. I'm going to stomp you in the ground." I'm aggressive, sir. And when I sit there and every caller goes, "Hello, hello," and I go, "Yes, you're on the air." They're like, "Hello, hello, hello." You're right. I'm not just exactly. You are smart. You picked up on the fact I'm not irritated because you called in about the Jew stuff. I'm irritated because you called in and thought I'd screened your call when we didn't screen your call. And I knew we hadn't screened the call. Okay? I'm irritated by the New World Order. I'm angry at having to risk my life. You're right. And I prayed to God last night, joined hands with my family, that I would stop being so aggressive, okay? I mean, I've got a recording of the state police pulling me over. I haven't even aired yet, where I'm yelling at the guy, okay? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of stupid people. I'm sick of scum. I'm sick of it all. But no, I love my callers, and I love my well-spoken callers. I get frustrated because I have so much news I want to cover. Then I want to take phone calls. Then when I do, I go down rabbit trails, and the whole thing is frustrating, okay? And if you want, we can suspend calls for a few months, if that'll please you, okay? The truth is, we're all just frustrated about the New World Order and about the depression we're in, and society is degenerating, okay? Everybody knows that. That's why people are buying guns, and thank God they are, because it's actually driving down the violent crime rate, even as the society degenerates, okay? But, and I mean, I am on edge. Here, let me try to be nicer then. Because one thing about not screening calls is it's also all over the map. Let me see who's been holding the longest. Ken in Michigan. Oath of office they want to talk about. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, Alex. It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. It's good to talk to you as well.
Thank you. You know, what I'm probably going to say is very simplistic, but simplicity gets caught in the heavy weight of complexity. And what I'm going to say is that our representatives take an oath of office, and there's a president that's going to be taking it for the second time. And in that, he says they are going to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. My question, Alex, is where are the constitutional lawyers in this? Where are the people? Why is there not such a great outcry that these people, our representatives, and our president is not preserving, protecting, and defending the Constitution?
Sir, I'll tell you where they are. I have been offered 3 or 4 times over the years big money to go do mainline talk radio with the establishment, and I told people no. Most people get an offer to join the dark side, and a big red carpet goes shooting out to you, and you do it. And most of the Republicans are bought and paid for by the same interest. And the globalists, if you don't go along with them and you're in Congress, they run you out. And so that's why we're in so much trouble. You know, mainline Republicans are lining up to support this gun ban right now. So look, this is the takedown, sir. That's why they're so confident. That's why I'm so upset. Yes, good point.
That's it, Alex. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
That's it, sir. Thank you for talking with me. Have a great New Year.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And listen, I'm going to be honest, folks. 10 years ago, if somebody on the hike and bike trail, let their dogs run up and act like they're going to bite you, I'd just be like, "Hey, get your dog, buddy. Hi. Oh, you're a nice doggy." I got to the point where, I'm tired of getting pushed around here. So it's not personal to you guys, folks. I mean, this isn't a game up here on air. I'm 100% real. Believe me, you ask the folks behind the scenes here. I mean, this is who I am. I've probably been in 200 fistfights. I'm not, I mean, that's just who I am. And there's something in me where my whole life, especially like 3 or 4 guys in an alley try to act tough and like, hey, buddy, like they're going to scare me. I'm the type of guy that wants to go and jump in the middle of them and beat their brains out. You know what I'm talking about? See, one guy, the only few times I've had my butt kicked is when I wasn't 100% in the right and some little guy, the only people who ever kick my butt are little guys. And I'm not up here bragging, "Oh, I'm physically tough." Look, it's ridiculous. I'm not even into that. But look what I do with information. Okay, my point is that I'm the type of guy that doesn't like bullies. I don't like oppression. I don't like being dominated. I recognize it for what it is, and I get extremely angry by gangs and bullies and scum. I have an instinct for liberty. Okay, I mean, I can't control myself is what I'm saying, and so I am extremely angry. Okay, I'll admit it. Okay, I'm trying to not literally just smash this desk up right now. You understand? I'm going to go into overdrive to cover the rest of the news and the audio and video clips I've got. And the reason this radio show is popular is it's real. But at the same time, you know, it's going to have some weird moments in it. We need to all be careful not to get mad at each other and just pray to God. And I literally prayed to God last night hard. With my wife and children, all of us holding hands, that all of us not, you know, well, there's not a lot of anger with my wife or kids, but, you know, just that we all be loving and good and strong. Because real men know how to control their anger. And I'm a weak person, folks. I have a real problem with people. Somebody tries to get in my face and tries to dominate me for no reason. I mean, you just hit my buttons. I mean, it's on. And the problem is that I need the control. And so it's hard doing a 3 or 4 hour radio show and thinking. And also putting yourself on the spot. And so I apologize to people that I'm rude. I apologize. I even apologize to the people with the German Shepherds, even though they were in the wrong up front and were like, hey, buddy, whatever. I mean, think how crazy that is, letting your dogs run around and bark and snap at people. I mean, I got 4 dogs. I love dogs. They were like, what are you, a cop? And I'm like, no, listen, your dogs are menacing people. And then the guy was like, hey, buddy. And I was like, that's it. I mean, my problem is I can turn the other cheek once or twice. But the problem is I can do it and go, okay, yes, all right. And, you know, there's only so much I can turn the other cheek to the globalist as well. And that's the thing, is that they're pushing the American people. I'm not the only person like this. I know a lot of our audience is like this. You're just nice, loving people. But for everybody that has a strong, loving side, you've also got an aggressive side. And I know how real this is. I know how bad this is. And it really upsets me. It really upsets me to watch footage of the TSA with guns strapped to their thighs, bugging their eyes out at families, groping little kids, going into the football game last night. The articles and videos are up at Infowars.com, and drones flying around over the football game. I mean, it really upsets me to know it's social engineering. It really upsets me to know Hollywood's putting out all these race war films in hopes of causing them. It really upsets me to know that the UN is running giant white slavery rings all over the world. But listen, they've sold 10 million guns in the month of December. That number's out. Can you guys show that article on screen? And there are lines around the block at gun shows all over the country. You've seen it on the news. 10 million they estimate sold. In fact, that particular article had it in there. And it shows these big giant lines, and they've got Code Pink and people out there, you know, protesting against it. And, you know, it's okay to want to go out and protest drones killing innocent people, but they just don't differentiate citizens being armed. They don't understand how it's part of that balance of power. And look, these people standing around the block to buy guns, they know something's wrong. They know society is in trouble. They know. And listen, my message to you is, let's all come together and defeat the globalist. Let's all come together and pray for God to use us as vessels of goodness against this evil. But let's also expose the globalists and just how evil they are. We're going to come back and go to your phone calls. Hospital spying on vets, comments on law and the police, general comments up there. Got a bunch of callers. Mark, Mike, Bill, Jay, Phil. We're going into overdrive. Some stations carry the 4th hour, some stations don't. But everybody, this has been the main transmission for 2012. I'll be back tonight doing the news. Maybe I shouldn't host the news tonight. Maybe I should have Jakari Jackson do it. And that's part of the irritability, is that I live in this information. But I appreciate all of you, and I thank all of you. And pray for me, folks, and I'll pray for you. Pray for America. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. It is the 31st day of December, 2012. I'm your host, Alex Jones. We're taking your phone calls right now. We had a caller last hour brought up the whole Israel thing, and I think condensing it down, the reason I'm so irritated by it is I don't hate people because of a religion or an ethnicity. And I am sick of all the use of racial stuff to control people by all parties. Israel uses it to control their population. And it's just human nature. And I don't like the fact that the whole anti-Israel crew doesn't like me because they know I don't inherently hate Jews. So I was just psychoanalyzing myself during the break. The reason I got mad at that caller was implying we were screening their calls again. Just isn't true. We do ask how people are listening, and sometimes to make sure your phone's good, if the phone sounds bad, they'll ask, what are you calling about? Because it's good to put a little comment up there, but call screening is not putting you on the air if you don't agree with what we want put out. We do not screen your calls. But, and that's because I chose to do that 17 years ago on air, because I like taking the calls raw. So it's not like, ooh, you got me, I'm screening calls. I mean, I could screen calls if I wanted to. It's just irritating to be accused of something you're not doing. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. And the anti-Israel crowd is always accusing me stuff that isn't true or is twisted or is lies. And it's you know, very, very irritating. Because it's people that just one up and say they're better than you because they make stuff up about you. And it's pathetic for them. Now, that caller really wasn't doing that in the final equation. And again, I mean, I tend to overreact to stuff just because, number one, I don't like it being about me. You know, I'll talk about myself a lot as an analogy of what is going on in the world. But I'm not into myself just because of my ego. And, you know, the whole world's coming down right now. And they're coming for our guns. And I think the caller had a valid point if he would have just stuck with it, that why is the anti-gun lobby filled with pro-Israel lobby? And I think that's something that will really defend the Second Amendment, is to raise that point, and I've been raising it. But I've been raising it from a position of truth and pointing out that foreign interests want to run this country. So, of course, they want us disarmed. But it's not just Israel. That doesn't give Israel cover. It just doesn't make it the sycophantic, mentally ill system of saying only Jews can do bad things. That's a cop-out. That's my point, is a bunch of foreign governments want our guns. And with Israel, you've got a bunch of people in this country who are dual citizens like Rahm Emanuel, who served in the Israeli Air Force, who goes around saying the American people should have to turn in all our guns. That is really offensive. But I'm saying it's offensive from the position of, you're a foreigner, Rahm Emanuel. You shouldn't even be the mayor of Chicago. And it's wrong for you to, just like with Piers Morgan. I saw emails and comments saying Alex doesn't like people from England. It has nothing to do with that. Piers Morgan is an authoritarian pig. Piers Morgan is here trying to take my Second Amendment. And I'm not saying go back to England because I'm against people who are Britannic, who are English. I mean, of my Heinz 57 background of French and German and Irish and Scottish and Alsatian and Native American, one of the biggest slices on multiple sides. I'm more English than anything else, and Welsh. It's just ridiculous. But, see, they want to reduce it down to a racial issue. So you can't say, look at the corrupt government of England, look at the corrupt government of Israel, look at the corrupt government of Iran. It all just becomes, oh, yeah, the Persians are all evil, or, oh, the Jews are all evil. I'm not going to do that. People are people, and I will not sit here and say a group is inherently evil. I'm not doing it. Well, if you just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, it is the 31st day of December 2012. Can you believe it's about to be 2013? I've got news reports here about that breakaway Mormon sect saying tomorrow's the end of the world. I hope nothing crazy happens with that. You got other groups saying it's the end of the world. So the 2012 hysteria may not be over yet. I pray it is, because we've got a lot of real threats and problems in our world that have to be dealt with. But we are into overdrive here today to take your phone calls, and I'll be on the Nightly News tonight. I'm hosting the Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central at prisonplanet.tv. By the way, if you're a new listener, we do the Nightly News show at Subscriber, but then we post a lot of it the next day at Infowars.com for everybody. And it's going to be a very important broadcast tonight on Dianne Feinstein and her saying that she wants Mr. and Mrs. America to turn their guns in. That's a quote. It's up at Infowars.com. It's also at DrudgeReport.com, and a bunch of other big sites are now picking it up. But speaking of PrisonPlanet.tv, we've launched Operation Wake the Sleeping Giant. One username and passcode can be shared with 10 additional people. So that's really 11 memberships for the price of one. And we've redesigned the site. It works even better now. It's really first rate. The website is PrisonPlanet.tv. That's PrisonPlanet.tv, or InfoWarsNews.com. And you can see all my films. We're now putting stuff up there in true HD and so much more. So 7 o'clock Central. And just go get a membership. It's $5.95 a month. And give it to 10 people. Email it to 10 friends and family and say, hey, here's your New Year's gift, New Year's resolution, to see these documentaries and to see this original underground news show. This is really powerful stuff. Here's your username and passcode. And 11 people simultaneously. That's less than 59 cents a month per person. There's ebooks on there, a bunch of other films, PrisonPlanet.tv, and it's our platform they can't censor. At least they have to try really hard. So PrisonPlanet.tv, the best deal out there, and the small amount of money we make on it. Basically, with that many people logged on to it, it just pays for the bandwidth, and that's our goal. So thank you all for your support. PrisonPlanet.tv. Go get a membership. Go give it to people so they can learn what's really happening. Vote with your dollars for liberty. Mike in Tennessee, who's listening on WMQM 1600, that's in, Nashville? And he wants to talk about contract law and police. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to let you know that recently I spoke with a person who has just recently completed the police academy in Memphis, and that person informed me that in the segment where the attorney explains to them how what the law is and how they achieve their authority to do what they do, the police training person, the attorney, admitted that everything they do to interface and entrap people is called contract law. It's not what people think. So, in other words, they make an offer, and the people unwittingly accept the contract.
But they do it through intimidation because there's been, look, they're having to teach police this now because the Patriots all learned about it, educated everybody, and so now they're having to teach the police. This is what it's always been. Listen, they started out about 85 years ago telling people in New York and New Jersey, hey, the trucks are riding on the roads you pay for, and they weigh more, and they're tearing the roads up. You're having to pay for that. Let's make them get a commercial license and pay to use the road. And the public's like, yeah, make them pay for it. Well, they just pass it on to you in the cost of the goods now. Then by the 50s, they go, here's just a paper card to prove who you say you are. Then it's a photo ID. Now they teach police if it's a privilege to use a vehicle to travel. No, it's not. It's a privilege to engage in commerce, they say under the Commerce Clause. Now police are being taught the Second Amendment's a privilege. It isn't. It's a right, but we have to educate them. So, yes, that's good news, though, because I have read about that in other police academies now, that they're having to tell them the truth, that they're con men. The only way the police can arrest you under true constitutional state law, which is under federal law, off the federal Constitution, has to match that, is if you are recklessly driving. You're drunk driving? It's a reckless driving charge. You're driving 150 miles an hour in traffic, endangering people? It's a reckless driving charge. It's a felony. Willful, knowing, premeditated, reckless. See, one thing, reckless driving, reckless endangerment. Again, but they take that and change it into all this other stuff to make us all suspects with thousands of fake laws. So, yes, sir, go ahead.
And the power that they have is the power that the citizen has, and that's the big sham that they're pushing. They keep referring to us as civilians. Well, the cops are civilians, too.
Well, that's why they say that. When I had the people with the 3 German Shepherds running up, barking and snarling at me on the jog by, and jogging back, I saw them growling at people, and then they growled at me, ran up, and I said, hey, this is yesterday. I said, hey, put your dog on a leash. I didn't say it mean. And the guy bowed up, and his wife said, are you a cop? And I said, you bet I am. I could citizen arrest you right now. And they laughed at me. But my point is, that's how ignorant they are. Exactly, exactly. The police are operating as citizens on patrol, designated by the constabulary and the citizenship to do the job professionally full time. That's why they're called servants. There are servants. It's why we pay them, so we don't have to do it full time. Go ahead.
Well, we can only delegate that which we have the power to delegate, and therefore we have that power. The power to also say, I do not consent when an officer approaches you. I do not accept your offer, and am I being detained or am I free to go, and leave it at that, just those two. And if they arrest you, that hangs them up. They can't entrap you any further. But the fact is that most times if you've not done anything, they're going to have to let you go, but they're trying to fish. They're trying to get you into putting yourself in jail. And
I know. Listen, this state police guy pulled me over 2 weeks ago, and he obviously was fish-eyed saucers when he walks up. I'm going like 8 miles over the speed limit, he claimed. I haven't even gotten around to fighting it yet. I probably got a warrant out for me, whatever. And I've just been too busy fighting the New World Order, you know, caught up in their red tape. And he starts asking, so, you know, where are you going? What you doing? I'm just like, come on, man, knock it off. And he got the speech. You know, I didn't blow up the towers like the federal government did. I don't ship the drugs in here like the government does. And he's like smiling. And I go, look, it isn't funny. And I go, I know you're told to let illegal aliens go. And he goes, yeah, that's true. I don't like it. And I'm like, that's right, but you're going to give me a ticket. Now give it to me. I mean, again, it's all a stinking fraud. If somebody's reckless driving, it's a felony, folks. There's only a few charges they can give you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did he use radar?
I don't even know. I haven't even read the stinking ticket yet. I've been too busy. But yeah, go ahead.
How to beat it.
I already know how. Adon Salazar used Randy Kelton's stuff, and they immediately dismissed it. Look, I know. I mean, I've been doing this forever, but go ahead and tell me your view on it.
Well, I've done this before myself. When you get them in the court, say, how did you determine the speed? They say radar. Okay, when did you last calibrate it? Your rules. Yeah. And the code book requires that you calibrate every so often. They say, well, before I used it, I used the tuning fork.
It's more than that. They don't file it with the magistrate like they're supposed to. They do it when you challenge it. It's null and void at that point. I'll have it removed that way.
That needs to be posted also.
Yeah, no, I know. It's all illegal, I know. And what's going to happen is the patriots are educating the police. That's why cops now will say, all right, you don't have to sign it, take the ticket. Or they'll say, okay, you're enrolled with this ticket now, and you drive off, because the cops are getting sued themselves now. See, they'll lie to the cops and tell them all day, oh, that's patriot mythology. And there is a bunch of mythology. See, the mythology, fake legal patriot stuff that gets you put in jail versus the real stuff. And that's what people have to understand. God bless you, sir. Good to hear from you. Thank you. And I know you were in Memphis. Excuse me. I said Nashville. We're on 2 stations in Knoxville. We're on in Nashville. We're on in Memphis. We're on, what is it, like 2 other places now in Tennessee? I can't keep track of all this. Chattanooga. I can't even keep track of it. We're getting so many affiliates. It's awesome. Praise God. Praise God, the word's getting out. They're probably going to kill me. And I don't want to make that. God, please protect me. Folks, pray for me. The average person would go. See, I was already crazy before all this. So the fact is, that's why I can't go nuts now. That's the secret to all this. Let's talk to Mark in North Carolina. I got some general comments. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, hi, Alex. It's good to be on air with you. I got to say, I've been fired up all day today. I called C-SPAN this morning, and there was a lady from the Council on Foreign Relations, and they were talking about movies that predict the future. I can't even remember what the name of it was, but a specific one. So I, of course, had to bring up that show, the X-Files spinoff, The Lone Gunman, and she just leaned back in her chair and grinned, and I tried to get into Building 7, but they cut me off by then.
Oh, yeah, listen. They've almost gotten rid of calls on C-SPAN. But they admit sometimes 90% of them on those call-in shows are anti-New World Order. Again, they can't stop the mass of us. And see, you're a leader. It's just as much a leader as I am or more, brother. It's people like you doing those small things that will bring them down. Go ahead.
Yeah, really, the biggest reason I was calling was to exploit your radio show to see if we could get as many people as possible to call in to the C-SPAN tomorrow about bombard them with 9/11 truth. Washington Journal is a good way to go about doing that. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, and I appreciate you.
God bless you, brother. I appreciate you. Let's jam in one more. Hospital spying on vets, and we'll come back from break on WTAN 1340 AM listener in Florida. Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, how you doing this afternoon there, Alex? This here Bill Abkar, Tampa, Florida, 100% disabled veteran, and there's a breaking news story down here. The family of a brain-damaged veteran discovered a camera hidden in a smoke detector in his hospital room at James Haley VA Medical Center. According to the local news down here, Bay News 9 and the Tampa Bay Times, Haley officials have yet to turn over the video.
Hey, guys, will you type in vet spied on in Tampa Hospital? Give me the news article. I'm going to come back to you. Yeah, listen, sir, all cell phones, all the new cable boxes, everything's watching and listening to you. And again, you're like, well, that's over the top. That's illegal. The government's criminal. I mean, Congress got caught insider trading in the tune of billions a year, and they just went, oh, we're allowed to. They're a bunch of crooks. All right, well, I'm going to go back to your calls here, back to Bill in a moment. But look right here. See, I don't know everything. I see comments on InfoWars all the time, and I see emails that come in going, why isn't Alex covering this? Because I don't know about it. I'm just like you, a regular guy, and that's why I love taking calls, and I need to do it more and more often. It's because callers always raise these issues. Here it is, TampaBay.com, smoke detector camera video still not released to veterans' family. And, yeah, the guy hadn't done anything wrong. It's because the whole hospital's got them. They're in the bathrooms. Come on, folks. Most public school bathrooms have them in it. They watch you at home on your laptops. I mean, the NSA watches you over the camera on your iPhone. I mean, come on. Officials, they're not servants, they're officials at the James A. Haley, Virginia Medical Center put a tiny camera hidden in a smoke detector in the room of a brain-damaged veteran without telling his family. The hospital says they did not violate the patient's privacy, but they're not going to release the recording right now until they've made sure that none of the hospital staff are on the tape, because that would violate their privacy. So we can't give you the video. They say there's 1,000 hours. There's approximately 1,000 hours. Must be reviewed frame by frame, and we've got to pay people to cut out the hospital staff because they have privacy. We're going to film you in your bed at the VA, but you can't have the video with the hospital staff in it because we got to protect their privacy. Oh, man. Folks, Google all of them. Did you know for 30 years, 25 years or so, all of the printers put codes on them microscopically about where the printer was bought, connected to who you are, to track what you're doing. Everything's their surveillance grid. A bunch of crooks run things. A bunch of eugenics crooks who think you're dumb animals, who said they were going to put in a scientific control grid to totally enslave us, okay? And now they want our guns. The last thing they haven't gotten. You think slaves can have guns? We're already slaves. I want to admit we're slaves, mental slaves, psychological slaves, physical slaves, and understand the people running things didn't enslave us for our own good. Okay? Yeah, there it is. Sluice crack code discovered in color printers. Washington Post, 2005. Let's go back to the caller. Bill, what do you make of this as a veteran? I mean, isn't that what you're fighting for? The freedom to have hidden cameras watching you in your hospital room? I mean, what's wrong with that? The government's good. I mean, Big Brother's good. 1984 is a fantasy vacation novel. It's not a dystopic thing.
I was sexually traumatized by Uncle Sam, and I've been complaining and griping for 22 years, and after 22 years, the VA's finally given me 100% disability. But that's what's going to be in this new, the new wordage in this bill that's coming out to ban weapons. They're categorizing veterans who they've sexually traumatized as mental.
By the way, well, I was about to say, the new talk is don't let anybody with a handicap have guns. They're just saying handicap, period, you can't have guns.
You know, the Catholic Church can be sued, Penn State can be sued, but you can't sue the Veterans Administration.
Well, that's because they tell you so. The truth is there's a damage fund. Same thing with the vaccines. Then they just cover it all up, what they do. God bless you, sir. Let's jam in one more here in this segment. Who's been holding the longest here? Let's talk to Jay in Texas. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Alex. How are you doing today? I got two things I want to cover. First of all, Judge Tom Head is in Lubbock. Second of all, the reason why this mess is going on is because God drawed a line. He wants his people to repent and turn back to him. And Russia and China's in this, Ezekiel 38 and 39. Now, judgment is coming, Jeremiah 50 and 51. We're fixing to see a divine visitation from God. Would you believe that?
All I know is evil is running crazy and things are nuts, and this is a spiritual battle. You know, I don't get into all the little factoids involved and all the debates. All I know is I've studied the elite. I've always been a Christian, but I wasn't a serious Christian when I really got started in radio. I mean, I love God, but I wasn't really thinking about it. And it brought me back to God 110% and back to Jesus when I found out and researched the New World Order are a bunch of devil worshipers. And at the end of the day, that's what they are. And I discovered that out of pure research. As for the judge saying he's prepared for UN troops being in Lubbock, what did I say? He was somewhere else?
Yeah, you said he was in Midland. No, he's in Lubbock.
No, you're right. Again, I just am working too much. I'm brain dead. Hey, I want you to have a great New Year, my friend. God bless you. All of you have a great New Year and be safe.